This is a reading from the Notebooks by Maria Valtorta, 1943, October the 15th. Jesus says, "The Church has applied to Mary, my blessed mother, the praises which the spouse in the song expresses for his beloved. And in truth, no other creatures in the world have so much of a right to receive those praises for themselves. If we also set aside, and above all, the sensuality which celebrates physical beauty, great in Mary as well, for her exclusion from original sin had made Mary a perfect creature, like the first two created by the Father, and the first two the sublime work of the Creator, had the physical beauty of the body created by the Father, in addition to the incorporeal beauty of the innocent soul. Physical ugliness came to man as one of the many consequences of sin. Sin did not wound only the spirit. It brought that wound to the flesh as well. From the spirit which had lost grace came instincts against nature, the fruit of which has been the monstrosities of the race. If man had not known sin, he would not have known certain stimuli, and would not have made degraded and accursed alliances, which later, over the ages, have been a burden with the impress of ugliness upon the first, original beauty. And even when man did not go so far as to debase himself with certain sins, wickedness, taken to the point of delinquency, marked stigmata upon the faces of the evil and their descendants, stigmata which you are still studying today to repress delinquency. But you scientists who study them ought to begin to remove the first stigmata of delinquency from your hearts, the one that makes you rebels against God, His law, and His faith. It is necessary to care for the spirit, not repress the sins of flesh and blood. If man, by caring for himself, first of all, were then to be concerned about the spiritual education of his brothers and sisters, recognizing this spirit, which is the motor of your acts, and not denying it with words and more with works of a whole life, delinquency would diminish to the point of becoming the sporadic manifestation by some of the poor mentally disturbed. Physical ugliness is a sign of one's own, or of a remote union with evil, to such a point that, in the time of Moses, when for a whole set of reasons, which I explained to you one day, footnote in the dictation of July 9th, it was necessary to use a severity and absolutism which I later modified with my doctrine of love. The deformed were excluded from the divine services. It was not to teach men to be lacking in charity towards the unfortunate that this law had been given by justice, but it was to put a check on men's animality, with the fear and terror that their sins against nature would generate deformed people, excluded from divine service, the supreme aspiration of the children of Israel. Afterwards I, eternal wisdom, came, incarnated for you, and I modified the law in the fire of my charity and in the light of my intelligence. Centuries and centuries had passed since the time of Moses, and, in spite of all the laws, man had fornicated with evil, with lust pushed towards monstrous aberrations, with ferocity also taken to the point of masterworks of criminality. Upon the children of these millions of sinners, the stigmata of the distant sins of their forefathers were imprinted, while, under the sheath of unlovely flesh, rendered deformed by physical defects and horrendous illnesses, there beat a heart more worthy of God than that of so many hearts of physically beautiful beings. And then I, the fruit of love and the bearer of love among men, to teach you love, taught you to love the unfortunate. I called to myself the lame, the blind, the lepers, and the mad, and I healed them when appropriate. I always loved them with a special love, and taught you to love them that way. This also reflected a reason of lofty justice. Could I, who had come to redeem the deformities of the spirit, and to love your deformed spirits to the point of holocaust, to give them back the beauty worthy of entering heaven, fail to love the physically deformed, whose deformity was a cross which by itself redeemed the spirit that was able to carry it? No. The Saviour loved them, and loves them, the unfortunates of the earth, and if he cannot work the miracle upon all of them, of making their members destined to perish perfect, he cannot, for reasons it is useless to explain to men. He can give his divine assurance of the possession of heaven to all those mortified by an infirmity, if they are able to suffer their trial of martyrdom without doubting the goodness of the Eternal One, and without rebelling against their destiny by turning it into an accusation against God. Let them love me because of pain, too. I will reward them for their love, and the forsaken of the earth will become the triumphant in heaven. My mother, the blameless one, the all-beautiful, the one desired by God, the one destined to be my mother, possessed the harmonious integrity of her members, in which the fashioning thumb of God, who had created her in his perfect likeness, was evident. The work of the artist has labored for so many centuries to represent Mary. But how can perfection be represented? Perfection issues from the inside to the outside, and even if you can create a perfect form with the brush and the chisel, you cannot introduce into it that light of the soul which is something spiritual, and which is an ineffable divine touch appended to a flesh which is holy, a touch that you see shining from within upon your brothers and sisters, and that makes you exclaim, "What a saintly face!" How can you represent Mary, the all-holy one of the Lord? Every time she appeared, and you then toiled to reproduce her appearance, those blessed with the vision of her exclaimed, "This work is lovely, but it is not Mary. She is beautiful in a different way, with a beauty which you cannot reproduce, and which is indescribable." Could you reproduce Mary, you to whom as comfort in the trial which was imminent, I granted the vision of my mother and yours? Footnote, in the text of September 12th and September 19th. Could you, even if you were an outstanding painter or sculptor? No. You stated that even your skillful words as an educated woman, capable of writing, are poor and insufficient to describe Mary. You said she is light, to express that which is most beautiful and indescribable in the world, and compare it to my and our mother. It is the spirit of Mary which emerges from the veils of her immaculate flesh that you cannot describe, O children of hers and brothers and sisters of mine. Sanctify yourselves so as to see Mary, even if, just to imagine, you were to see her only in paradise, you would be blessed. For paradise means a place where the vision of God is enjoyed, and whoever sees Mary is already seeing God. She is the stainless mirror of the divinity. You see, then, that the praises of the song are exactly appropriate for Mary, who with her pure soul in love wounded the heart of God, who is her king, but who contents her in her loving desires for you, as if she were his queen. I would like you to strive to love Mary within the limits of your strength, just as you must love God with your whole self. To love means to imitate, out of a spirit of love, the one who is loved. And I have made this into a sweet command. People will know that you love me when they see that you do the works that I do. Now I give you the same command regarding my mother. They will see that you love her when you imitate her. Oh, if the world were to strive to imitate Mary, evil in all its different manifestations, which extend from the ruin of souls to the ruin of families, and from the ruin of families to the ruin of nations and of the entire globe, would fall in defeat forever. For Mary keeps evil under her virginal heel, and if Mary were your queen, and you were truly her children, subjects and imitators, evil could no longer harm you. Be Mary's. You will automatically be God's, for she is the enclosed garden where God remains, the holy garden where God blooms, for she is the fount from which there flows the living water that ascends to heaven, and gives you the means to ascend to heaven. Me, the Christ, Redeemer of the world, and Savior of man. Footnote. The commentary on the Song of Songs resumes in the dictation of October the 18th, as the writer also notes on a typed copy.